You have no idea how mixed my emotions are on this day building up to this game one in my hometown of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and yet now I can't tell you how guilty I feel about where my allegiance lies between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. Not only did I grow up in Oklahoma City, I'm in the Oklahoma City Public Schools Hall of Fame. I guess a lot of people know who I am in Oklahoma City, and a whole lot of people, Spurs fans, know who I am in San Antonio and in that region around San Antonio. And now the team from my hometown is playing the team I used to love with all my heart and soul for what I believe is the NBA championship. As much as I respect the Knicks, I don't think they'll have much of a chance against whoever wins this series. And I do believe this team will win this series in 7 monumental battles of games. The 7th, like the first, being back in my hometown of Oklahoma City, will be won late by the now back-to-back MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who will be the best player on the floor for much of the series. That will include the alien Victor Wembanyama and all of the very good players that the Spurs have put around him. They are very good, and they kicked Oklahoma City's ass, as you know. It's 4 out of 5 times. It was really 3 out of 4 times. The last game didn't really count. Nobody played, but they did. It was way back when, but they kicked Oklahoma City's asses up and down the floor. Oklahoma City did win one of those games when SGA said that's enough. That was at Oklahoma City, and that's what I believe will happen tonight. But I have to tell you, and maybe you don't care about this, I'm just spilling my own guts for you today, for tonight. Tear me apart, because once I left Oklahoma City, went away to Vanderbilt, I have a lot of Vanderbilt in my heart and soul. And I went to the Miami Herald, became a star young writer, went to the LA Times and become an even bigger star young writer. Then at age 25, I became a columnist at the Dallas Morning News. And Dallas didn't yet have a professional basketball team. Not in my life did I ever think my hometown of Oklahoma City would ever have an NBA team. And even though there was a buzz about Dallas getting a team when I went there in late 1978, that wouldn't happen until 1980, and my first go-round there in Dallas through basketball season, I didn't have anything, so a couple times I flew to San Antonio to watch the Spurs, the old sort of ABA version of the Spurs, featuring the Iceman, not Caleb Williams, no, the real Iceman, George Gervin. He had the finger rolls. And it just shook me by the heart watching the Iceman, ice teams who came to San Antonio, played in the old Hemisphere Arena. It was a barn. Once living in Oklahoma City one summer, one of the few summers my parents were sort of together. I came from a broken home, but I don't know if it's my brother Rick convinced them take us to the World's Fair. It was in San Antonio that summer, the Hemisphere. So we went for a couple of days, drove all the way down to San Antonio. I think my father was too drunk to drive because I didn't even have my license yet. I had my motorcycle license when I was 14, but I'm pretty sure I was 15 at this point, and I drove most of the way to San Antonio. So I knew it, and I loved it. I could live in San Antonio. And because of George Gervin, I started becoming a Spurs fan. And yeah, the Mavericks came in 1980, and I covered the Mavericks throughout my Dallas tenure, but I remained, somehow the Spurs just stayed in my heart. 99 with Tim Duncan, David Robinson, they broke through in that strike year and won a championship, and then they continued to grow, but there were Shaq and Kobe in the way, obviously 2000, 2001, 2. I covered a lot of those games when Shaq just ragdolled both Tim Duncan and David Robinson. And yet I still love the Spurs. And I started on national TV in 2004, a show called Cold Pizza in New York City, where I met my wife, Ernestine. And it was just right on schedule as Duncan grew up, David Robinson retired, and here came Manu Ginobili, late second round, Tony Parker into the first round. And as my national TV career started to take off at Cold Pizza 2004, 5, 6 in New York City, here came the Spurs. Obviously, 2007, against this kid from Akron named LeBron James, Spurs swept LeBron in the finals. I wasn't a big LeBron fan because I didn't see a clutch gene. And I thought, if he's that great, they could at least win one game off my Spurs. They'd become my Spurs by that point. No, they didn't even come close. Sweep. Tony Parker was the MVP. And I was off to the races with the San Antonio Spurs. And it was right on time because the Spurs obviously became a rival of then LeBron's Heat. And here we went. And there we went as the show was moved up to Connecticut, to the mothership in Bristol, Connecticut. Rebranded as First Take, was Cold Pizza. And here it went. My man Jamie Horowitz took over First Take, 2011. Decided to rebuild the whole show, make it a 2-hour show of just all debate built around me and a rotation of debaters. That's 2011, the Tebow season in the NFL. And then came that that last go-around for LeBron in Cleveland the first time when he's up 2-1, played a great game that Friday night in Boston on the Celtics, up 2-1, then 4, 5, and 6, as was his wont. Disappeared. Stephen A. reported, he had to be sedated before games 4, 5, and 6 because of a locker room issue with his teammates. So somebody from the inner circle, probably Mav, or even more likely Rich, told him he had to be sedated. And here we came with the LeBron excuses. But all of a sudden, they're perfectly positioned with the heels to be Spurs rivals. Obviously, it was Dallas the first year in 2011. In 2012, here came the Thunder. And the problem was my emotions started to be mixed because a whole lot of people, I have a lot of friends in Oklahoma City, I have a lot of friends in the media, were wondering, well, wait a second, the Thunder, who were born in 2000, they came to Oklahoma, they weren't born, but they came to Oklahoma City, they're born in Oklahoma City in 2009, 2012, all of a sudden, it's KD, Westbrook, and James Harden coming off the bench, and here they come and run headlong into the Spurs, or I should say vice versa, in the conference finals, and was kind of a mismatch. It was over in 6, and I kept rooting like crazy for the Spurs because they were my squad. And the truth was, the Thunder were just younger and better. But the painful truth was that already I started publicly clashing back and forth with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And the truth was, from my heart, with lots of pressure from people in Oklahoma City to, come on, exit the Spurs bandwagon and drive this one for us. You're on national TV, drive it for us. I just didn't like them. I didn't like Kevin Durant. I loved him as a player. I'd support him since his year at Texas. But as a guy, I just didn't like him. He was hard to root for. Russell Westbrook was harder to root for. And James Harden, just didn't like his intangibles. I didn't like his disappearing factor in big games. And that manifested throughout his career. And I think I was proven right that my instincts were right about Kevin Durant. He's just unlikable. Mr. Burner account. Mr. Take shots, internal burner account shots at Houston teammates. It's just always griping about something that he's the thinnest skinned superstar I've ever closely observed. Not even close. And Russell Westbrook, it's just an egomaniacal stat machine who did average triple. I never thought I'd see anybody, not since Oscar, average triple-double. He did it for, 3 years in a row? Didn't win an MVP. KD won an MVP. James won an MVP. I got it. But they weren't MVPs in my heart. They weren't lovable MVPs. I found them unrootable. That's what I found them. All 3 of them, and I think it's been proven true. I just couldn't love them. I had to go cover. That was our first time we took first take on the road to that 2012 finals, game 1 in Oklahoma City, Heat versus Thunder. LeBron versus KD, Westbrook, Harden. And I needed a bodyguard in my hometown where I'm in the Public Schools Hall of Fame. Was I in by? Yeah, I think I'd already been in by then. So I'm in the Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, and I need a bodyguard in my hometown because people hate me because I'm taking shots at Russell Westbrook, who is taking more shots per night than Kevin Durant. And I said, that's just wrong. I was trying to defend Kevin, and then he blasted me and said, Skip Bayless doesn't know shit about basketball, was the quote. How could I exit the Spurs bandwagon for that? Seriously? I just couldn't, I couldn't wrap my head, my psyche, or certainly my heart or my soul around that squad. I just couldn't. Unlovable, unrootable. And so I hung with the Spurs. 2013, should have won. Should have been 6 rings for Tim Duncan. They did win in 2014. That was when they broke through by getting through the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. And it was, I'll tell you in just a second, I fell out of love with Greg Popovich, slowly but surely, but that was his greatest coaching game, was Game 6, Spurs at Oklahoma City. Game 6. That night he started Corey Joseph, and I don't know how they did it. Ginobili hit an incredible shot to get it to overtime, and then Tim Duncan took over in overtime, which is why he's 5th on my all-time list, ahead of LeBron, who's 9th. But I digress. In 2014, I'm in San Antonio, and I became the mayor of I was the unofficial mayor of San Antonio. Probably could have gotten elected when they closed out LeBron and company in the Heat in 5. I probably could have gotten elected mayor. So that's why this is so hard on me, because those are, I look back more fondly on those days than any in my career. We're doing shows on the Riverwalk. It is Riverwalk madness. It's like 105 degrees with the humidity just rising up off the river that is the Riverwalk. And we're dripping wet out there, and Spurs fans are hanging from the rafters at the Hard Rock Cafe. It was unbelievable. It was a rock concert, and I was Mick Jagger. I don't know. It's just craziness. And I loved it, and it was truly the most memorable days and nights of my career were through that series in that city where I could live. The food is incredible there. Heck, the Alamo, even though it doesn't stand for anything but a tragedy, but it's just a great place. And so is my hometown. I love it. I go back once a year to play golf with my high school friends. Lincoln Park Golf Course, Lincoln West, and Lincoln East for that matter. Two of my favorite, they are my two favorite courses, public courses. Incredible shape, incredible layouts, rolling hills. They have hills in Oklahoma, trust me. In Oklahoma City, right there off I-35, across from Twin Hills Country Club. My point is, I love them both, and I'm torn apart because what happened was that Tim Duncan retired in 2016, and Manu and Tony retired after 2018. And then there was that debacle that year with Kawhi playing 9 games and falling apart with Popovich, and it was just horrible. And he goes to Toronto and wins a championship, and I finally forgave, but I can't forget that he quit on us. It was just debacle of a disaster. And then that year they lose to Golden State in 5 when there was the Kawhi ankle turn, Zaza a cheap shot. And then the next year they lose to Denver in 7 with Derek White as their star. I don't know why they didn't hang on to him. And then for 5 straight years under Greg Popovich, my San Antonio Spurs don't even make the playoffs. And Pop got away with it. And I couldn't understand it because I definitely fell out of love with Greg Popovich. I've said it a number of times. I'll say it again. He became the star of the team, and I think it went to his head. And every night, his post-game media sessions were bully pulpit sessions. I don't like coaches expressing, emotional, bottom of the heart, bottom of the soul views on politics, and that's what he did. Whether you agree or disagree with what he said, it doesn't matter. I don't like it because I'm a prisoner of what he's talking about, and I just want to hear about the Spurs. And then he began more and more to berate and belittle members of the media, of which I am a member. And the media allowed him to get away with it because that's just Pop. He's just an old curmudgeon, but he's a lovable curmudgeon. Everybody loves Pop. I didn't. I just didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't. And I thought he got exposed just the way Belichick got exposed without Brady. When Duncan walked out that door, and remember Pop at one point said, when he walks out that door, I'll be right behind him. Baloney. Nope. 5 more years he coached. Egomania. And he continued to bully members of the media and bully fans who didn't believe in his politics. And after a while, I just got tired of it. It just wore me out. So, right on schedule, as the Spurs are winning the draft lottery, and they get Wemby, as in Victor Wembanyama, the Thunder are arriving as a brand new basketball team that feels completely different than the 2012 Finals Thunder felt. This team is like a college team. This team is all for one and one for all, without gigantic, runaway, unlovable egos. This team has a player who is on an arc right now in SGA, back-to-back MVPs, won Clutch Player of the Year. He's on an arc to be a top 10 all-time player. And he was born with a clutch gene, unlike somebody we all know, who I've been talking about here of late. So, just as they're landing Wemby and turning their fate around, and Popovich is walking out the door into the sunset, the Thunder are arriving, and had Dallas in trouble late in the game, SGA made a big mistake. I think it was crucial to his arrival that he made one big mistake and fouled a three-point shooter in the corner, P.J. Washington. And they lost to Game 6. They were going to have Game 7 against Dallas back in Oklahoma City, and I believe they would have won it. But Dallas went on to beat Minnesota and go to the finals, and then Lucas shoots 11 for 45 from three in the finals, and they lose quickly. And yet, the Thunder team, I said, I like these guys. I like this young coach. He's really good, Daignault. He's really good. And obviously, Sam Presti, once again, is proving to be the best GM in basketball post R.C. Buford in San. I said for years he was the best GM. And now it's Sam Presti. How can you argue? He's got a stockpile of draft picks, and he has surrounded SGA with 15 deep kind of depth that has firepower and star power all the way to the end of the bench. It's unbelievable. It's lovable. It's exciting to me for a guy who grew up in a town that I thought would never, ever have an NBA team. Are you kidding? I went to University of Oklahoma basketball games like that was my pro team. Oklahoma City University was my other pro team back in the days of Abe Lemon. They had a national power. I don't know if it was a power, but it was a top 10 team. And all of a sudden, there's not a Durant, there's not a Westbrook, there's not a Harden. There's a team that comes together out on the floor and surrounds whoever is the star of the night in the interview of the night, the post-game interview. They're all around him, kidding with him, pouring drinks, pouring water on him, putting towels around him over his face, and they're just having fun. They're like a bunch of college kids, and I'm back. I'm sold. And yet, what the new regime in San Antonio has put around Wemby is maybe not quite as impressive, but pretty close. And these two teams now, it looks like over the next, 4 or 5, you never know how these things will turn out. People get hurt, knocking on wood. But if they stay relatively healthy, this is going to happen every year. They're going to play for the Western Conference Championship, and they're going to play for the NBA Championship all at once in the West Finals. That's what's going to happen. It is set up for that to happen, 3, 4, 5 years out. I once said that about my Dallas Cowboys, Aikman, Emmett, and Michael. No, they suddenly crashed and burned. That could happen to either one of these teams. But right now, it looks like they're so young and so together and so well coached that this is going to be it. And it starts tonight in Oklahoma City. And I can't wait, but I can wait because I feel guilty that I'm not rooting for the Spurs. I do. From the bottom of my heart, I feel guilty because I still have love for the Spurs. I definitely have deep love for that city and those fans. I know those fans. I took pictures with thousands of those fans. I signed for thousands of those fans. Thousands over years. Thousands. I miss them. I miss that city right now. I wish I could be there and feel what they're feeling. But in the end, I was born and raised in OKC. Oklahoma is okay. So I'm picking the Thunder because I believe they'll win it in 7, and I'm rooting for the Thunder because that's where my roots are. but a piece of my heart is still down south near the remains of the Hemisphere Arena. I was there with George Gervin. I was there with Timmy and Tony and Manu. It was great. I'll be watching tonight, and I'll be rooting like a madman for the Thunder. And the more I scream for SGA, trust me on this, the louder I scream, the guiltier I will feel. That's the God's truth.